And Carlito had, and still does, he's still a really, really good talent. I always thought that he underachieved, and he was so good when he wanted to be. When he wanted to turn it on, he was as good as anybody we could put in a ring. He was natural. He had timing. He had charisma. He had athleticism. He had the whole package. But the package he was more interested in was the package between his legs, because that son of a bitch was as big as Romeo I've never seen anybody. You talk about attitude era guy that was getting around. Carlito was the man. He was the man. The women loved him, and he loved them back. And he had a who's who on that on it notching his gun that he went out with and allegedly did his business. And he was amazing. The guys would kid him about how amazing his run was with some of these 10s that were divas in WWE. He turned nothing down but the covers, and he was damn sure a swordsman. So, but his wrestling work was excellent. I just don't think he was ever really motivated. Your promoter's son got a little different path than somebody else, but Carlito Colon was a great, great talent, really athletic and understood the business. I just think that sometimes he had a lot more invested in his social life than he did his wrestling side. Hey, if he was younger, and he's good in anybody's company. I know what he's doing now. I guess he's doing some indie dates and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I lost contact. I know last time I heard he was living in Houston. But he was never a problem in the locker room. Never a problem to me. Always polite. Good kid. And but I think he could have been greater than he ever dreamed if he had fully dedicated himself to the wrestling side of his career and not the social side.
We should mention that there's some other people who are trying to make their debut in the WWE. It's Tough Enough 4 going on when this is happening. And out of the 8 finalists, we see a couple of names that we're going to recognize. Daniel Puder, Ryback, who's here as Ryan Reeves, of course, and Mike Mizanin, who we know as The Miz. Mm-hmm. Man, when you get Ryback and Miz out of this same group, Tough Enough 4 had to be one of the best ones, huh?
Yeah, good group. Ryback was another guy that probably has never reached his full potential in wrestling. Could have been a lot better than he was perceived to be. Just didn't work out. Sometimes attitude, right place, right time, whatever. Just stars just not in line. But if he had not had distractions, Ryan had a lot of ability, a lot of upside. And I think when we first saw him, we thought he being somewhat of a ultimate warrior type guy, heavily muscled, big, thick guy. You ain't got to be a Dory Jr. in catch-as-catch-can wrestling. You can be a bruiser, and that's what he was. But, along the way, things got kind of taken out of, he didn't do himself any favors, quite frankly. Miz, I always liked Miz, Conrad, but here's my early day issues with Miz. Is I always perceived he's a good-looking kid. He's got a nice body. He's athletic. He's certainly smart. I didn't know if his work would lend to him being perceived as a tough guy. And if you're going to be a heel, which he was at that coming in as a heel, you got to have a little threat in you. You got to have a little bit of a little something there. And I never felt that early on with Mike. And then as Mike got more successful and more experience, he figured that out, I think, and he's become one of the top stars in WWE. He had a run as a champion. He was the guy. And then, of course, that like Carlito's push. Why did Carlito not become a bigger star? Because he didn't get the continued push. Why did he get the continued push? Because he didn't deserve it in the eyes of those that decreed that type of thing. So, but Mike's has evolved into Mike's classic. I saw in L.A. thing. Somebody sent me a thing from L.A. that he and Mauritius bought a $6.2 million home in L.A. He must be doing really well, and I'm proud of him. He lives in a house kind of like you do.
Oh my gosh, listen to that. Hey, so
come on.
The thing I want to circle back to is I feel like you were struggling for the words there for Ryback. And then you said he just didn't do himself any favors. I'll leave it at that.
Attitudinal. Just relax, be patient, and not be distrustful. The thing about wrestling, if your personality, and I know a lot of guys that are basically paranoid and that are untrusting, that are still in the wrestling business, that struggle with that facet of their life every day because they trust nobody. It's a sad thing to have happen. But Ryan looked to me like a guy that had no trust for people. He'd been screwed around somewhere in his life. He didn't trust anybody. It didn't seem like, that's just my opinion now. Again, another guy I never had a bad word with. I always got along with Ryan. But he sometimes expressed himself in the wrong circles and said the wrong things, when it's better sometimes just to leave things alone until they evolve. And a lot of this generation right now has a hard time with that. The millennial, defiant individuals have a hard time with that particular thing. And there'll be a lot more careers that will be ended in wrestling going forward because of that facet than a lack of wrestling ability. They don't trust. It's a mental thing, and they screw themselves from the start, and that's not a good deal. So Ryan should have been a bigger star, no doubt about that. I'm sure he's going to say he got on the wrong side of somebody. He wasn't politically correct, whatever. Bottom line was, if you just lay back, Ryback, and let it come to you, he'd be printing money right now. Instead, a lot of guys who are very smart, high IQs, like Ryan Reeves, they figure things out, but did you really figure it out? So I think sometimes he might have been his own worst enemy, but I thought he had great upside. I really did. And he's an entrepreneur now. He's done some interesting things, but I felt badly for the fact that we missed on him in that regard. Some guys have got to be managed differently. You can't manage everybody alike.
I think Ryback will be back. I think he's been doing some rehab to fix some nagging injuries he had in WWE. And if you follow him on social media, I mean, I haven't talked to him about it, but I'll just put 2 and 2 together. And I think when he's 100%, we'll see him pop up somewhere.
I hope so. He deserves it for himself. He's a workout freak, and all those guys eating those egg whites and 88 chicken breasts a day and all that shit. He's dedicated. But he ought to. He has, if he has the opportunity, Conrad, to get back in the game, God damn, man, go for it. Give it everything you got, and try to recapture that lost time that you've had while you're putting things back together. Father Time don't wait on anybody. It's like I said before. Uncle Sam don't do no jobs on your taxes. Father Time don't do no jobs either, man. So get it while you can. I hope he does. I hope you're right, Conrad. I really do.